Slavery still occurs. Nothing is being done against it. Fear, a force that drives humans into ignorance. Ambition, a force that drives humans to do what they shouldn't. Oppress others, steal, kill, and or break the law in severe and several approaches. That has been what has driven this world to its present-day morals. Although all governments legislate against slavery, it is a terror that still dominates in some places today. Haiti would be one of the top countries with the offense. Haiti was once a country of very rich economy. The land that furnished 2/3 of France's overseas trade, was the country's richest colony and the overall greatest individual market for the African slave trade. Slavery was used in plantations, providing an essential role in the French economy. Today, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and the second poorest country in the world. What changed? Slavery did. With the Haitian Revolution, one that freed the slaves of the nation, yet destroyed its assets. It all initiated with Ogay's revolt. Vincent Ogay, leader of this revolt, was a wealthy free man of color. With the outbreak of revolution in France, in the summer of 1789, settlers were busy debating how the new revolutionary laws would apply to the colony of Saint-Domingue. Vincent Ogay and Julian Raymond then unsuccessfully petitioned the white planter delegates to support mulatto claims for full civil and political rights. They were leaders of a group called Société d'Amis des Noirs, meaning Society of Friends of the Blacks. In 1790, outright civil war began when free men of color began claiming they were too French citizens under the terms of the Declaration of the Rights of Men and of the Citizen. In that same year, the National Assembly granted full civic rights to the people of color. Vincent Ogay traveled to Saint-Domingue to ensure that this was being effective in the colony. As this wasn't being used in the colony, he finally incited the blacks to revolt. After an attempt to attack Cap Français failed, defeated by a force of white militia and black volunteers, he fled to Hinchi. However, he was captured and executed in February 1791. Ogay's death took part in provoking the first massive slave uprising. Later, this rebellion evolved to the Haitian Revolution as a whole. Toussaint Louverture was key in this revolution. He was raised as a slave with good conditions by lucky chance. Those conditions ensured him an education containing of reading and writing and speaking French. With his good education and privileged life, he was able to feel for the other slaves' situations and terrible conditions. Those which include the horrid trip to Central America, where the mortality rate was of 20%. They were placed one on top of the other with heavy stones over their bodies, making sure they would not attempt to leave. Their right arm would be tied to their right leg and left arm to their left legs. They were barely fed and had no bathroom whatsoever, leaving horrid smells in the bilge they were placed in. Many were beaten to death, and horrible tortures would be used. An example is that of cutting one slave into about 300 parts and making the others eat them. Whoever refused to eat the body part would be threatened by the same form of torture. Many slaves took the opportunity in being out in the dock and jumped off into the ocean. Once they arrived in the bay, they soon had to get used to the life they were said to have. They woke up in their new home, many times by the hear of cries and the whipping of a stick. Later in the fields, after they were designated to a function, only one thing was certain. They knew to be whipped more often than fed. This system benefited the white plantation owners solely, who profited largely on the torturous hard work the slaves did. Toussaint, feeling for those of his lineage, led 5,000 followers into battleground in name of the revolution, and seized freedom for Saint-Domingue. They finally had the freedom and equality they longed for so many years. Yet there was an obstacle. Napoleon had heard of the commotion and was heading towards the territory with 21,000 men. Alarmed by this, the slaves then did something to protect their freedom. They burned down all the assets of the land, so Napoleon would lose interest in seizing it back for France. That evening is what destroyed both the soil and the economy of the country for the following centuries. With the loss of a good economy, desperate businessmen looked after an alternative that would help them make profit. Slavery was then once again suggested, and they were tempted by the thought of regaining such a great economy. With time, rich businessmen owning multimillionaire companies brought slavery back to Haiti. Today, the system called revastic, meaning one who stays with, in French, is the predominant slave work in Haiti. Children are sent by their families to work in companies for a host household as a domestic servant. They do this because they lack the resources to raise and support the child. That child is then placed in a school by their owners, with the expectation of being treated as a part of the family. Instead, they are given many difficult tasks to do, as collecting heavy buckets of water, hand washing clothes, carrying loads to and from the marketplace, and working in fields. They are obliged to work for 14 hours a day, regardless of their age. These children are constantly being abused. They sleep on the floor, are given rags or old clothes to wear, eat leftovers in place of meals, and even get beaten. Three-fourths of the slaves are girls, which in many cases get sexually exploited and are expelled from the household if they become pregnant. It is up to us to stop the terror these children go through every day. We must take action. Many resolutions have been brought up by the UN and other NGOs involved. It is your turn to become the next Vincent Ogay or Toussaint Louverture. Like Ogay, you could create a petition or incentive a revolt like Toussaint did. It is your turn to make history, to have your name be remembered in a good manner. Get involved and make this world a better place. It is the act of two or even one person solely that might put a final end to slavery. That person is you. Be the change you want to see in the world, in Haiti, and in the conditions that the children there live with